Paul and I just spent 10 minutes sharing stories about our wives that they would not approve of hearing.
My wife heard it and did not approve. I can, I can
My
attest to
wife
that.
did not hear it, and she doesn't need to know. I
Yeah.
mean, if I even mentioned the airport, and she would know the
She
story.
would know where you were going.
Yep,
And
and
figure-
there would be looks of disapproval, and that's all that we need to mention
It
there.
is- I don't understand why I'm always the bad guy. I guess that's my central issue here.
It always comes back to us being jerks. But I would
Just
like
for
to
calling
think
out
we
the
are just
obvious.
observers of the universe, Paul.
Thank you. Exactly. Right.
With
I'm
a little
just
color
explaining
commentary.
what happened. I'm not coloring it in any way. I'm not. I don't
If
know.
there's a camera, it would validate our observations and prove that.
Hey, had you enjoyed that huge Halo reveal yesterday, by the way?
Yeah, so it sounds like they're going to announce it today instead.
Okay.
Which I have mixed opinions on this because, on one hand, this was Microsoft's keynote. This was their time to show stuff off, and maybe
Yeah,
they were
if you
thinking.
does Microsoft have one game coming out this year that matters the most? Could you think of one?
No.
Is it a Sea of Thieves update, a Gears of War 5 DLC?
No.
Not exactly.
And so, fine. Supposedly, they're going to be talking about it today. There's another overall Gamescom keynote, and it'll be a part of that or something like that. Which is, I understand that they want to try to maybe own the news cycle today with this announcement. Fine, but in your own keynote, maybe you should be and one more Master Chief at the end or something that says we didn't intentionally forget about this. We're not trying to hide it. The only reason I bring that up is because on Friday they dumped some news that things aren't going well, and maybe
This is a chance to get on top of that and say things are going well. Look at what we've done.
Yeah,
you know?
here's a screenshot, or at least we're gonna say something tomorrow. Just it doesn't whatever. Oh well. So anyways, so be on the lookout. I think it's December 8th. I think is gonna be roughly about the date.
Oh really? Oh, that's later than I would have thought. Interesting. Well, that get away from the Call of Duty, whatever other nonsense comes out in November, and
yeah, it's a nice cover for an extra month of maximizing.
so technically it was a 13-month delay then, not a year.
Oof.
Jeez. That's fine. Hey, by the way, speaking of games, and we should talk a little bit more about Gamescom, but I didn't want to forget this. I've been playing Quake since that came out last week, right? And I have a better handle on what's in this thing now. Yesterday, I completed the single player campaign, the original 4 episodes, that came out in 1996. And I've been trying to figure out what the other stuff is. You can download Quake 64, and this one I'm not 100% sure of because either Doom 64 or Quake 64, I think it was Doom 64, was actually completely different from the PC version. Different levels, different look, it was completely different. So it's possible that that's at least a somewhat different game. So that's kind of interesting. But there were 2 expansion packs for Quake released in 1997. One was made by Raven, which is a company that made a lot of these kind of things and made their own game. I think they were responsible for Heretic and Hexen in those games. The other one I don't remember the name. I think that company's gone. And then the other 2 are a little more recent. The third one might be as recent as the late 1990s. It could be an old thing. I don't know. I'm not familiar with it. But the 4th one is that new thing that was made by, I want to say they're called Machine Games. It's the company behind some of the newer Wolfenstein games. It's supposed to be spectacular. I guess it's only 5 levels long. But anyway, the point of all this is a game, and then this multiplayer, which I've not done yet. This thing is $10.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that's interesting about it, just huge value there, I think. But I went back because I had played so much of it. Yesterday, I'm like, let me look at Call of Duty. I haven't done that in a while. And I got to say, compared to Quake, which is kind of always run is on by default, so you're zooming through these levels.
Mm-hmm.
Quake is it's like running with a loaded diaper or running through 2 feet of mud or something. It feels so slow.
Yeah.
Compared to Quake. Anyway, I think a lot of people might have just kind of ignored the whole Quake thing because it's what is this, 25 years old, blah, 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 whatever. Honestly, this is one of the best, for all of the, if you know the history of it, it went off in one direction and kind of came back, and then they kind of turned it into more of a Doom type game. And so it's got a melange of styles across the episodes and all that stuff. But man, it is one of the most properly balanced games ever made. It is in its own form of perfection. It's fantastic. It's
There's
just
a reason
it's
why
so
it's
great.
still being played 25 years later.
Yeah. Oh yeah. if multiplayer holds up, I could see doing that for a while. It's regardless, I'll be playing it for a few weeks anyway. I want to go through all that other stuff. I mean, just single. I don't know. There's no story at all. It's ridiculous. The other thing that's funny is I completely remember everything. Like I didn't get every single secret per se, but in a lot of levels I did. And the end monster is the easiest thing to kill in the world once you know what the trick is. Like, and you kind of zap into the level where this octopus looking thing is, and I'm like, oh, I completely remember this.
Yep.
And it was like zip zip done. It was done. It took like 35 seconds or something. But anyway, awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, the other interesting thing, at least out of the announcements from Microsoft stuff, are the flight simulator updates. They're adding a bunch of new like geographies and all that stuff, but they actually announced a racing like mini game coming to it, which I think is going to be sort of the longevity of flight sim, that they're just going to have these like mini events that happen in airplanes just popping in and out, and I think that's going to be a unique
yeah, tell me if you caught this. This is a supposition on my part, and I could be completely wrong. They added like a unique plane of some kind, like a 1930s German plane that's kind of famous if you're into this stuff. And I have never heard of it, but whatever. And then the racing thing you were talking about, another world update covering a lot of Germany and part of Austria and Switzerland and all this. Okay. Now, to date, all of the flight simulator stuff has been free updates for the game. And we've seen that with, Sea of Thieves, Gears of War 5. Microsoft has done a pretty good job with first party stuff. They're talking about that for Halo as well, right? And we know, some features have been delayed, but as part of that first and probably beyond year set of updates, they plan DLC updates. Those things presumably will be free. But if you look at the announcement for the flight simulator thing, they don't actually say this, but they also don't say free. I'm wondering if we're not going to start seeing paid expansion packs or whatever they're going to call them for Flight Simulator. And I don't remember which one it was that set this off in my brain. It might have been the racing aspect of it, but I kind of hope they don't do it. It would be understandable if they did, but I'm curious what you think about, if you've even caught any wind of that.
So I didn't catch any of that, but it would not, if I remember correctly though, it would not surprise me to see them charging money for the airplane models. So like if you want to go like
store thing. Yep.
Yeah. Like that's the microtransaction market, is like just going and buying different planes, because there's licensing and fees involved with all that stuff. Like Microsoft just can't just use a Boeing 737 and be like, yeah, thanks Boeing. Like
That's true. That's true. Although, I think it behooves these companies to get this free advertising too. I mean, plane enthusiasts, the types of people who would buy a flight simulator or whatever. There was also a throwaway line right at the beginning of the flight sim segment. The guy in charge of flight sim said that right now in this very moment, there were more people playing this game than have ever played it in history. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Breaking all their records.
Yeah. And, bringing it to the console was undoubtedly a huge part of that success. I mean, it was going to be successful anyway, but you open it up to this new market, and it's neat. Yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah, and if there's any background noise on the podcast, it's because my AC unit just kicked on, because it's, let's see, 9:10. It is 82 degrees outside and about 9 trillion% humidity. It's going to be...
Yeah. As they say, almost everything.
And Siri, I didn't ask you anything.
I always walk out the door like, welcome to the bus.
Siri just said, I don't know what you mean by I didn't ask you anything. Just peak
Apple
AI, everything going well. I think that's really, I don't know, we got Ignite coming in November, virtually. No surprise there.
We call this thing, right? Last year's was early because we knew early on it was going to be virtual, and they split it into 2 shows, so it was in September. I get the feeling they pushed it back to the normal November timeframe in part, just in case they could do a hybrid event. They never said this, obviously, but remember, there was a second Ignite event, and that Ignite was in 2021. It was in March, I think. And so this one, if you look at it, it's just called Microsoft Ignite. Like they're pulling a Surface Pro 5, because somehow, what do you call it? Like Microsoft Ignite 2021 Part 2.
Yeah, like Ignite 21H1. I don't know.
Yes, there you go. That would be good.
So there you go. We've got that, and then there's also, they announced that this is part of their gaming stuff, that cloud gaming or cloud streaming or whatever is going to be coming to all Xbox consoles before the holiday. And more importantly, if you're on an Xbox One, you'll be able to play Series X and S exclusive games, I guess, or just whatever genre or generation exclusive on your Xbox One via the cloud streaming. So,
well, that's I didn't even really think of that. That's a good distinction. Yeah.
So there you go.
There.